Good afternoon, everyone. We have approximately 100 people in the lobby, so I'm just going to wait for them to join. We are here, just hearing people joining, but I'm going to start now, and I think that some more people will probably join as we go along. So I'd like to extend a really warm welcome to everyone. I hope you can all hear me. I'm just going to check with Alice and Wiebke that you can hear me. Wonderful. And also say a big thank you to both Alice and Wiebke for all of the hard work that they have done in preparing for this webinar. We have almost 500 people registered for the webinar and over 100 already joining. And I just want to say a big welcome to you all and introduce myself. I'm Jane Clark. I'm one of the vice presidents on the board of the Federation of Vets of Europe, and I have a lead responsibility for the animal health portfolio. This means a lot to me because in my day job, I'm a government vet. I'm currently the Director of Veterinary Services for the Food Standards Agency in the UK, but I've also been a veterinary advisor in the UK's Exotic Notifiable Disease Unit, coordinating the investigation and response to exotic notifiable disease outbreaks. Just a little bit in terms of housekeeping, we will be recording this webinar, so those who have registered but not able to join us can watch it, and we hope also to be able to publish it as well for wider consumption. Because the slides and recordings are available, we will be able to also share them with all of the participants and all those who have registered. And I'd ask you to please pop your questions for the speakers and for the session that we have where we have a round table into the questions and answers box. If you go to the top of your screen, that's not the chat. So please do go into the questions and answers box, the little speech bubbles with a question mark in. Thank you. Okay, next slide, please, Alice. This is our joint webinar on the containment of the recent lumpy skin disease outbreaks in Italy and France. And we're joined by two eminent speakers and many colleagues who are interested in this area. Alice, please can you go to the next slide? And of course, I must say a little bit about the FVE. This is a really important area for us to work on, but the FVE has a whole range of areas of interest. We represent over 30, almost 40 European countries with 330,000 veterinarians in our membership. We have 4 sections: the practitioners, the hygienists, the veterinary officers for the state veterinary officers, and vets in education, research and industry. And as you can see, our mission is about enhancing animal health, animal welfare, public health and protecting the environment. So just going to move on to the next slide. In animal health terms, we asked our members, what was worrying you about the animal health situation in your countries? And this was, I think, in 2024. And at that time, foot and mouth disease and lumpy skin disease were not on our radar. So I think that really shows how important it is that we keep providing these opportunities to share experiences and to learn from each other and to be able to deal with unexpected outbreaks. So you can see this is the 4th in a series of animal health webinars: highly pathogenic avian influenza, blue tongue virus and foot and mouth disease, all of which are going to be available on YouTube and through our website. And Alice, next slide, please. Thank you. So I'm just going to do a little bit of scene setting, and before we dive into Gaia and Nicolas's experiences. We all, I think, know lumpy skin disease is a viral disease of cattle that is transmitted by biting insects. You can see we, with our backgrounds, are surrounded by the biting insects, which is a little bit ominous. It can spread rapidly once it's introduced. And although it doesn't pose a risk to human health, it does have serious implications for animal health, animal welfare, and trade. And you can see the WAHIS, the World Organization for Animal Health's information system map of the lumpy skin disease outbreaks here. You can see that there are outbreaks in both France and Italy. In France, in the Alpine department of Savoy and Haute-Savoy, and in Italy, first in Sardinia and then in Lombardy. But these were the first outbreaks in Europe for these countries, for lumpy skin disease for these countries. And it's an important shift in the epidemiological picture. It raises questions about how the virus entered these areas, how it spread, and how we can take measures to contain it. And then just before I move on and hand over to our eminent speakers, I just wanted to remind our FVE members that we have a draft FVE position paper on prevention is better than culling, animal vaccination as a socio-economic cornerstone of animal health and EU resilience that is out for consultation at the moment. And we hope we will be able to adopt it in our November General Assembly in Cyprus. This paper underlines the need to prioritise preventative measures, especially vaccination over mass culling, and it sets out recommendations for policymakers, veterinarians and the wider animal health sector. So FVE colleagues and members, the deadline for comments is on the 14th of September. Please do feedback your thoughts. Great. So we are moving on now to our speakers. I will introduce them separately. And first we have Gaia Muroni, who is on her boss's Stefano's computer. So Gaia is not Stefano. We're really grateful for her to join us. She graduated as a vet from the University of Sassari in 2019, and she has maintained her links tutoring and supporting academic teaching at the university with a specialisation in animal health, breeding and zootechnical production. She has also conducted activities in terms of the zoonotic diseases, protozoology and entomology at the National Reference Centre and at the National Reference Centre for echinococcosis. And last year she became the veterinary manager at the Veterinary Epidemiological Observatory and the National Reference Centre for the Study of Pestivirus and Aciphivirus diseases at IZS of Umbria and Marche. She's currently the veterinary manager at the Epidemiological Centre of the IZS of Sardinia. So Gaia, can I please pass over to you if you could bring your presentation up and sharing your screen. Thank you so much for joining us, and over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm gonna share the presentation and just let me know if you can hear me. Do you hear me well?
We hear you well, Gaia, and I don't know whether you can put it onto the presentation mode. Brilliant.
Do you see the presentation? Okay.
All good. So, thank you.
Thank you for inviting me. We really think that it's important to share our experiences since for us it was pretty much a good thing to hear from other countries. I hope you're not too sleepy after lunch, actually. I know it might be tough. And yes, I'm gonna report the first detection of lumpy skin disease in Italy, since we actually won the prize for the first case and we collected another category A disease, unfortunately. So, lumpy skin disease is caused by lumpy skin disease virus, pox virus that affects bovines. It is characterized by skin nodules, as you can see. This is a picture from one of our outbreaks, and is transmitted mechanically by hematophagous arthropods, mainly houseflies. So it is included in the list of notifiable diseases under the Animal Health Law and is classified under category A, D, and E of the Regulation 2018/1882. This means that this disease is not normally present in the European Union. It wasn't actually present in Sardinia either, and must be eradicated immediately if detected. It is also subject to surveillance and to control measures concerning the movements of animals and animal byproducts. Italy has a specific contingency plan for the Lumpy Skin Disease virus published very recently in June 2025 after our disaster. By June 2025, Lumpy Skin Disease had spread to several countries in 3 different regions. The closest one to Sardinia is actually Tunisia in North Africa. Our story begins on a very warm day, the 20th June 2025, with skin nodules observed in an extensive beef facility in Orani province of Nuoro in Sardinia. Suspicion of LSD prompted immediate submission of samples to the National Reference Laboratory for Exotic Diseases located in Teramo, where the infection was confirmed just the day after. Even it was a Saturday and the samples flew from Sardinia. Since then, other outbreaks have been reported, and this is actually the first confirmed case of LSD in Sardinia and in Italy. Since it is a category A disease, according to the European regulations, an immediate notification was sent to the Ministry of Health, which in turn informed the European Commission and the World Organization for Animal Health. The phylogenetic analysis carried out by CEST showed that LSDV Sardinian strain is similar to LSDV strain identified in Nigeria in 2018 and belongs to cluster 1.2. This is the current situation in Sardinia, updated to today. We have a total of 64 outbreaks, including 3 suspected and 37 ongoing cases, and 24 extinguished outbreaks. In terms of numbers, we have 2,674 animals present in the outbreak sites with 386 cases, a mortality of 6.3%, morbidity of 21.2%. It's important to note that the number of culled animals does not match the number of affected animals. This is because culling operations are still ongoing, and some animals are still on the farms, vaccinated and treated with insect repellent. In the response of the outbreaks, all measures required by the EU legislation were immediately applied. This includes the seizure and closure of the affected farms, the establishment of restriction zones, movement bans, urgent epidemiological investigation, culling, clinical and vector surveillance. The control strategy included the immediate activation of the Central Crisis Unit and the deployment of an EU vet mission to support the response. Traceability work led to the detection of a case in Lombardy in the Mantua area, which is in the north of Italy, with just 1 sick animal reported, linked to animals imported from Sardinia at the beginning of June. All animals have been culled, and the outbreak is officially declared closed, with no further cases reported on the Italian mainland. At the moment, we have a protection zone of 20 kilometers from the outbreaks, which includes about 3,400 establishments and nearly 100,000 bovines. Beyond that, the surveillance zones extends up to 50 kilometers, covering around 500 establishments and over 234,000 bovines, essentially, almost the entire bovine sector of Sardinia. For nearly 2 months, the cluster of cases stayed concentrated around the very first outbreak in the middle of the island. All movements of bovines outside Sardinia are prohibited, since the island is considered as further restriction zone. Sardinia was also designed as vaccination zone 2 according to the regulation 361. Right after the notification of the outbreaks, the veterinarians of local authority in all of the districts started clinical examinations in all Sardinian territory. Almost 3,000 establishments and 126,000 animals were checked, and a total of 13 establishments showed clinical symptoms. The clinical examinations were mostly performed by the vets of the district of Nuoro, where most of the outbreaks are located. A certain degrees of clinical variability was documented, depending on the stage of the progression and the severity of the infection. The clinical signs observed in infected animals in Sardinia were fever, salivation, conjunctivitis, typical LSD nodules, scars after scalp detachment, as you can see in the pictures took in the outbreak sites. The entomological surveillance was mainly focused in the area of the outbreaks to better understand the presence and the transmission by vectors, since so far we don't know actually how the disease got into our island. With first the identification of the arthropods, then we performed a generic real-time PCR in pools. Positive results were particularly found in ticks and houseflies, with a total of 61 positive pools and 139 negative pools. Sardinia has around, another big number, 286,000 cattle across 8,455 farms. A total of 300,000 doses of vaccine were donated from the EU vaccine bank, and the vaccination campaign finally started on July 23rd, 2025. The emergency vaccination plan involves suppressive vaccination in outbreaks areas and protective vaccination in other zones. In Sardinia, the vaccine currently used is a live attenuated vaccine based on the LSD needling strain produced by OBP, a South African company. The vaccination campaign will cover the entire cattle population and will be repeated every year. So far, in all the vaccination zone 2, as you can see in the tables, 180,000 bovines have been vaccinated across 5,000 establishments, reaching overall the 70% of establishments and a 63% of the total bovine population in a month and a half. What a great job from our veterinarians. Sulcis area shows the highest vaccination progress, while Ogliastra reports the lowest percentage. So during the course of the epidemic, the vaccination program has contributed to a reduction in the number of outbreaks, as shown in the graph. This is nothing new. This data is in line with literature and what happened in other countries with the vaccination strategy. Well, talking about side effects, some mild effects have been reported following vaccination, including local reactions at injection site, needling, disease, and fever. Overall, these effects have been observed in 15 farms, which corresponds to just 0.3%, indicating that such reactions are relatively rare. The number actually might be underestimated because many cases show only mild symptoms. And in Sardinia, most cattle are raised on extensive farms, which makes detection more difficult. CEST performed DIVA testing, and almost all of the samples were identified as the vaccine strain, indicating that the detected reactions were due to actually vaccination rather than natural infection. In addition, the negative samples also turned out to be negative to the wild-type virus. Even though the vaccine is safe and efficient, detecting the disease is more challenging in vaccinated areas, and the need of DIVA tests performed so far only in the mainland delays the whole process and takes more resources. After France reported its first confirmed case, Italy decided to extend its vaccination strategy in Valle d'Aosta region, using the same vaccine used in Sardinia. During this emergency, we faced many challenges due to complex European regulation and numerous practical difficulties. Starting from the bovines, which in Sardinia are mostly raised under free-ranging conditions, as you can see in a picture took here in Sardinia, this makes handling the animals for clinical checks, vaccinations, or culling very difficult. Farmers often raise them on public grazing land, mixing animals, and increasing the risk of wider disease spread. Another problem is actually represented by the social impact, which, for what I think, was one of our biggest problems. Some farmers appealed to the administrative court, resulting in a suspension of culling in the outbreak sites. Some farmers also have refused vaccination, mainly to concerns about using a live attenuated vaccine. similar to those used for blue tongue. Plus, late refunds, complicated derogation for movimentations, increased the resistance and opposition to control measures, making the situation even harder. Not to mention the huge economic loss due to the management of carcasses and animal byproducts that have to be sent outside of the island since we don't have a rendering plant, vaccine cost for the next year vaccination campaign, depreciation of the animals, culling cost, and the undervalued compensation for culling Sarda Bruna breed. So, the Sardinian experience highlights the importance of continuous surveillance, target vaccination strategies, and strong cooperation between local, national, and international authorities. I really thank you, everyone. I thank a lot my institution, and my boss is going to be here to reply to all of your questions since I looked with his name. Just kidding. I wanted to share with him this great opportunity that I had starting working with him. And that's it.
Gaia, thank you so much. Just a reminder to all of our attendees to please put questions into the questions and answers. We'll come to a discussion after Nicolas has spoken. I just wanted to say a couple of things before we move on. Gaia, congratulations to Italy on rapidly tracing and identifying and culling the animal that went to Lombardy and preventing onward spread. That's really important. But also, I just wanted to think about the emergency vaccination, which came from the EU vaccine bank. And it really shows the importance of our collective action in preparedness for responding to these diseases, along with your great collaboration with vets in Sardinia to get those vaccines delivered. So I just wanted to say congratulations to you on that. And now, we're going to move across to our second speaker from France. Nicolas Berthollet graduated as a vet from Lyon in 2005, and he then spent a year in mixed animal practice. For the next 10 years, he covered several positions in government administration in Paris and overseas, mainly in international affairs on SPS topics. Since 2016, he has worked in large and small animal practices in Savoy in France, and as a local representative and vice president. And Nicolas, you might have to explain the name of your technical organization, but it is in charge of veterinary continuing education and delegated missions for the French competent authority in relation to animal health and welfare. Nicolas, you are another of our very eminent speakers, and if I could now hand over to you, if you could share your presentation, we're looking forward to hearing from you about the experience in France.
Thank you very much, Jane. Give me 1 second that I charge presentation.
We can hear you well, and now we can see the presentation. Yes.
So
there we go.
I will talk about the French experience regarding Lumpy Skin Disease and the first outbreak in France in the Savoie area. Many things will be rather similar to what has been presented by Gaia regarding the control of the situation in Sardinia. So maybe some specific points regarding the situation in France. So the first outbreak of Lumpy Skin Disease in France was located in this area in the southeastern part of France, in the Savoie region, which is in the Alps. So it's a rather mountainous area, as you can see on the picture below, with the breeding industry, which is mainly represented by dairy cattle, which is used, from which the milk is used to produce cheese products, and especially some rather famous raw milk cheese under geographical indications. It's also a very extensive breeding.
Sorry, Nicolas.
Yes.
Yes.
For some reason, we're seeing a black screen instead of your presentation.
Okay. Can you still hear me?
Yes, we can hear you fine. And we saw moments of your presentation, I'm just gonna let Jane liaise, but I didn't want you to keep going further without people being able to properly follow.
Yes, I'm sorry. Thank you, Alice.
Can you see the presentation again?
We cannot see it. It's still the black screen. I thought it was me. I'm having some Wi-Fi problems. So thank you, Alice, for coming in. Nicola, we can see it now, but the black screen does keep coming. So I will, yes, it shows for just a few seconds and then it goes to a black screen. So I think there's two things that we can do. Yes. Alice, you sent a copy of the presentation to Alice. She may be able to share her screen if that would be easier for you.
Yeah, it's maybe better.
Yeah, we'll just take a second to allow that to happen. There is no rush. We've got plenty of time. Thank you, Alice.
I'm sorry for that, but yeah, sometimes connection in the mountains is not that good.
That's right. Yes. Well, I'm in the middle of a big city in Cardiff, and I have poor connection as well today. Okay, Nicola, if you could let Alice know which page you're on. Is this the correct page?
The slides.
Yes.
Yeah, on this slide is fine.
Thank you.
So I was saying that we were in an extensive breeding area in the large mountains. And we also have some specificities in this area with lots of transhumance practices, cattle coming from other regions of France, during the summer period. So we had the first clinical suspicion and laboratory confirmation of LSD. So this is something that I will present you. And then in the second point, the control measures implemented. And finally, just make a brief sanitary and epidemiological update on the current situation in France. So maybe next slide. So very practically, on the clinical point of view, end of June, on beginning of the week, one of my colleagues has been called by a farmer who had a cow with some anorexia and depression and fever in a 50 dairy cattle herd. The vet prescribed a symptomatic treatment, but a few days after, the cow wasn't better, and there were some additional animal affected. So we decided to make some blood samples for laboratory analysis regarding Utong, episodic hemorrhagic disease, but also for ehrlichiosis or besnoidosis, because we have some experience of the presence of those diseases in our area. And the results of those analyses were not conclusive. And 2 days after, there were the appearance on the first cow of some nodules. So at this stage, the vets decided to call the official vet services to investigate a suspicion of Lumpy Skin Disease, since we have had the information of this outbreak in Sardinia 1 week before. So at this stage, there has been some blood samples and nodule samples, and also some swabs were performed on the animal and sent to the National Reference Laboratory for LSD, which is located in the southern part of France in Sierade. Next slide. So the samples were analyzed on Saturday, and we got the results on the Sunday with the positive results for PCR tests for LSD. So from that moment, there was the confirmation of the LSD outbreak in France. So the first thing that has been done was to inform the farmer and the vet. And the same day, so on the Sunday evening, there has been some documents implementing some control measures in line with the EU regulation, and considering the stamping out of the entire herd that was confirmed infected by LSD, and some restriction movements with a restricted zone of 50 kilometers around this outbreak. So the stamping out of the cattle was performed on the next day, on Monday, and a few days after, the ministry ordered the LSD vaccine doses from the EU Commission, with that has been mentioned, this emergency reserve of vaccine that was located in South Africa, and we finally received the vaccine on July 15th. So it was the same vaccine than the one that was used in Sardinia, the OBP vaccine from the OBP laboratory. So it's a Nifling strain virus, live attenuated. And the day after we received the vaccine, there has been a collegial decision with representatives from the different stakeholders, vets, farmers, and government regarding the control measures and the global strategy to eradicate the disease in France. And we started the vaccination by the end of the week. So it was on Friday that the first doses were delivered in the clinics, and the vaccination started on the same day. So next slide, please. So this is a picture of the restricted area that has been implemented by mid of July. So there has been several restricted areas, zones that have been implemented regarding the evolution of the situation in Savoie. This is the restricted zone by July 25th. So in red, you can see the protection zone with this 20 kilometers from the outbreaks. And in green, it's the surveillance zone with this 50 kilometers distance from the outbreaks. There were 4 departments were concerned. So you can see that there were 3 departments concerned. The black lines are the departments' borders. And to the north, you can see a small part, which is actually Switzerland. And to the eastern part, it's Italy. So this area is close to Switzerland and Italy. So this has an impact also regarding European coordination to handle this disease. In this area, there were about 250,000 cattle belonging to around 3,500 farms. And there has been recently an outbreak a bit further north, so it has been adding around 40,000 additional animals in the latest restricted zone. And regarding this area, there were about 70 vet clinics concerned to deal with all the control measures in the cattle in this restricted area. Next slide. So the control measures to eradicate the virus are very similar to the one that has been implemented in Sardinia, since they are based on the EU regulation, based essentially on a surveillance of all the cattle and early detection of any clinical suspect animal. Fast laboratory analysis, since we had initially only the National Reference Laboratory accredited with an accreditation to test LSD. So 2 additional departmental laboratories have been got the accreditation to test LSD with PCR testing and DIVA testing, one in Savoie and one in Ain department. So 2 of the 4 departments concerned by these restricted zones. Stamping out of all the cattle of the infected epidemiological unit in case of outbreak has been also implemented. And emergency protective vaccination, so as I said it before, it started on July 18th. This vaccination was mandatory for all cattle in the restricted zone without any exception. And the objective was to deploy this vaccination as fast as possible on the entire herd of the restricted zone. Movement restrictions were also implemented for all cattle in the restricted zone. and some epidemiological surveys have been conducted by the official vet services for mainly two aspects. The first one, trying to understand how the virus arrived in Savoie and in France, and what was the origin of the outbreak. So we have been also identifying the strain of the virus, which is similar to the strain that has been identified in Sardinia. So the Nigeria 2018 LSD strain. And the second purpose of those epidemiological surveys was also to try to understand the real or possible evolution of the disease and the virus on the French territory. Some other very important work in all this management of this outbreak has been communication, information, and education to all stakeholders, farmers, but also vets and public in general. And there has been also an important psychological and financial support, mainly towards the farmers, and there has been already 2.5 million euro paid to the farmers to date. At this stage, mainly to the farmers that were concerned by the stamping out measures. This is the situation as of today regarding the several cities concerned by outbreaks. So you can see in the center where there is the first outbreak on June 29. We have had several cities concerned by outbreaks, with a total in this cluster of 56 outbreaks on a total so far of 78 outbreaks. So three-fourths of the outbreaks were located in this area. The second cluster was the first outbreak in the second cluster occurred on July 12th, 25 kilometers to the eastern part in a more mountainous area. And in this area, in this cluster, there were around 24% of the outbreaks that were identified in this cluster. And then we have 3 other cases, but these cases were isolated cases, I would say, since so far there has been only 1 outbreak identified in those 3 places. One outbreak on July 22nd in Autlus, eastern part from the second cluster, 20 kilometers. And then a fourth one, 10 kilometers to the western part of the first cluster. And the latest one that has been identified 1 week ago around is located 20 kilometers north to the previous one. So total 78 outbreaks concerning 46 farms. And all the cattle that were concerned by LSD outbreaks have been killed so far, and so it represents around 1,700 animals. This is the current situation with the latest outbreaks integrated in the definition of the restricted zone. So we can see that it has been extended to the north. Nowadays, there are an additional department that is concerned in the second region, and we can well see the fact that Switzerland is very much well concerned by the situation in France, and Italy also on the eastern part, and they have been also implementing vaccination and surveillance in those areas in line with the restricted zone defined in France. And regarding the vaccination, at this stage, even with the extension of the zones, we consider that there are approximately 90% of the total herd of this restricted zone that has been vaccinated. So in conclusion, I would just like to emphasize a few points. The first one is the very big importance of the coordination and strong commitment of all the stakeholders at all levels. The official services, the farmers, the vets, and the labs, And I think this is very important to emphasize, since we have been able to perform a very fast and massive and quick vaccination, thanks to a very good coordination and cooperation between farmers and vets on field. This vaccination has been sometimes rather complicated, related to local specificities and this mountainous area, since we even have been, in some cases, there has been the need to provide material to contain animals in the mountains by helicopters or things like that. So it has been a very strong and very challenging logistical work to perform this vaccination. It's a long-lasting management issue, since as we can see, we still have some outbreaks that occurred one week ago, and the specificity of the disease with very long incubation leads to very long-lasting management measures. One point that has been extremely difficult, that has been mentioned by Gaia also, is the societal acceptability of those measures, especially stamping out. We didn't face very much opposition to vaccination, but the stamping out measures has been very difficult to implement. And the communication towards the civil society, which doesn't, in some cases, know very much and very well about the breeding activities and the challenges of the management of those diseases, made it sometimes very difficult. And the role of the social networks has been also very important in the opposition of those control measures. So it is an emerging disease in France. So nobody was really prepared, and the animal weren't also prepared regarding their immune system. It's a very severe and complex disease to understand, and the way it develops in our herd and in our country. And it has been very challenging to deal with, both on the scientific and regulatory point of view, and maybe to give a different point of view regarding the side effects of the vaccination. We have been facing rather a lot of strong side effects in our herd when we vaccinated. So maybe next picture, just to show you maybe a few pictures of the places where we have been vaccinating animals, so in rather high mountain areas, so with, of course, very nice sceneries, but also very technical on the logistical point of view. And just for your information, the next slides gives you a few links towards different structures with dedicated pages regarding this LSD outbreaks and all the management measures, the Ministry of Agriculture and their local, regional and departmental levels, and then some links towards the professional organizations. So the two first ones are the vet organization, and the last one is an organization from the farmers' side dedicated to the sanitary issues. And there has been a lot of technical and scientific information provided and regulatory too, provided on all those pages. And this has been contributing to educate and to inform our colleagues involved, and sometimes the public too. Thank you very much for your attention, and well, I'm open to all of your questions.
Nicolas, thank you so much. The photographs looked idyllic, but I can see the challenges of delivering a disease control response in that situation. So I did want to just say congratulations to the French and the Déploiement veterinary teams. You know, it took less than 3 weeks from confirmation to be deploying the vaccine. So that's really impressive. And again, it shows, you know, how important it is to be prepared, but also to work with the private vets and everyone and the farmers across the system. And also, if anyone from Switzerland is here and would like to comment, please do put something into the questions and answers about your response to being in the zones. Before we move on to answering some of the questions and answers, we have, I know, Alain from FISAS, who hopefully Alice will be able to bring onto camera. Hello, Alain. Would you be able just to say a little bit about your call to action on LSD? And also, if Kat McLaughlin is here from IPRUMA, then we may have a few words from her as well. Alain, over to you.
Well, at first, Jen, I would like to congratulate FVE for this webinar and the very interesting speakers and presentations. I also thank you for the invitation of FESAS to present our position paper on LSD management. Given the health context we had during the last years about vector-borne diseases in Europe, FESAS invested a lot about this topic and already adopted in the past few elements, recommendation about the management of this kind of diseases. Certainly, LSD is one of the most important of vector-borne diseases for cattle farmers. So we decided to adopt very quickly a position paper to support the implementation of the different measures already required by by the animal health law. As the context was very, very serious with the beginning of the summer period, we were thinking we had to fully support the massive and protective vaccinations. But we wanted to highlight that the key message will be the preventive strategy. So we recall in the paper 10 key measures for us to keep both hope for the farmers in the area and to keep in view as possible the rapid eradication of the disease. We recall we have to manage as well as possible to limit the spread of the disease. So we highlighted the necessity for a coordinated activity at all levels, from the European level to the farm level. And of course, we highlighted the need to articulate the fight around 3 key measures. First, of course, massive protective vaccination, and second, with very strong support of biosecurity measures from ban or restricted movement, and third, the importance of the culling for epidemiological unit infected. These 3 measures are key measures, and we saw the effectiveness of this strategy and we congratulate all people, farmers, organizations, veterinarians, and public services involved in the fight, because today we are able, I cross my fingers, but we are able to see an incidence very low today, but we still have to be vigilant. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alain. And I have put the link to your call to action in the questions and answers. We have quite a number of questions. So, Kat, I will just come to you briefly. I believe you just have a few comments from an EPRUMA perspective. And Gaia, thank you. I was going to say, please come back on, Gaia, for us to discuss some of these questions.
Yes, thank you. And hello, everyone. And thank you for some fantastically informative and helpful presentations. I'm Kat McLaughlin. I'm the chair of EPRUMA, which hopefully you'll all be aware, it's the European Platform for Responsible Use of Medicines in Animals. And we represent farmers and vets and a lot of the allied industries all across Europe on responsible use of medicines. Obviously, LSD, it's something that we've all been watching with an awful lot of fear and interest and trepidation. And we had a meeting with some of my EPRUMA colleagues just earlier this week, I think it was. I was at the end of last week, anyway, a couple of days ago. And EPRUMA was very much, we were talking about vaccines, the critical medicines, how we could continue encouraging our farmers and vets across Europe to engage with responsible use of medicines, with prevention is better than cure principles. So I think there is an awful lot that I work in my day job in the UK. And one thing that I found out of the meeting and the discussions that we've had in EPRUMA is the fact that we are all dealing with the same concerns and the same things. And I think the fact that LSD has been dealt with, my fingers are crossed for you that it continues to be very, very well dealt with through vaccination, I think is a fantastic incentive for us all to work together and to actually kind of help try and get these important critical medicines developed and accepted and out there when we need them. EPRUMA is doing quite a lot of work, and we've got a couple of work items coming up that we will be publishing and working and kind of sharing with people very soon. We are looking at a statement on preventative vaccination. We are also looking at some of the going back and refreshing some of our policy briefs around responsible use and around preventative care. So all I can say is basically, please keep an eye out on the EPRUMA website. And thank you very much, Jane, and the speakers. I will let you go back to the questions now.
Thank you, Kat. And please, in the questions, do put a link to the EPRUMA website so that people can follow that. Thank you, Alain and Kat. I really wanted to bring the whole community that cares about animal health and responsible use, working with farmers and vets and the pharmaceutical companies. I think it's really important. There's a number of questions in the questions and answers, and I'm going to divide it into a couple of themes. Nicolas and Gaia, I have also asked if you could answer a couple of the questions, some of the more straightforward ones about carcass disposal, etc., in the questions and answers. And we will also take away any questions that we haven't followed up so that we can get some answers from Nicolas and Gaia and respond to everyone who has registered for the event. But the first theme I'm going to ask about is the media, the general public, and the acceptability and communications already raised as some challenges by you, and your reflections on how best to engage the wider general public and media. Maybe if I could come to Gaia first and then Nicolas.
So thank you for the question, because it's something that was a really it was a big problem for us, since we faced a really big media bomb, since all the medias wanted to take all of the informations and took two sides, because we have the side of the vets and the side of the farmers, what we actually can see. And some of the farmers, of course, are in our side, but the media jumped from one side to another, and we couldn't actually see and hear one voice. So we read a lot of incorrect information, and this put the farmers against us. So it was really a big problem, because we didn't say a lot, but they were collecting infos and just saying a lot of incorrect things. Yeah,
Gaia, that's really, I don't think we have a simple answer to that, do we? But I know that's a challenge that we can work together to help to respond to misinformation and disinformation. Really helpful reflections.
And of course, we weren't prepared, because it's an emerging disease.
Yes.
It's a new disease, so nobody knows about it. Everyone was scared there could be a zoonosis. So one of the question was, are the humans in risk? And of course, another problem with the population, it was for the culling things, because as farmers, they appealed to the administrative court. We had a suspension for the cullings. So you could see healthy animals still in the outbreaks, staying there, vaccinated, and they have to be culled. So
Yes, and this is going to be, I think, something that Nicolas may reflect on further. We are getting quite close to time. So, Nicolas, if you could just maybe give a few reflections, and then I'd like to ask a couple of questions about epidemiology. So, Nicolas, over to you.
Well, regarding the press, I would say that Gaia said the main things. We faced exactly the same issues. Maybe one very typical example is that we have had many cases of stamping out measures implemented with lots of people around and press and filming, and this has been reported in some press and reported also. I mentioned the social networks influence on all this, and this was very difficult to handle with the complexity of the disease, also to be able to explain that the incubation is very long, so that you can have an animal that seems healthy, though he is infected by the virus. So all this is something very difficult to explain to the public and to the medias, and to get the right information provided.
And I think it's not unique to lumpy skin disease, but the challenge, Gaia, as you say, is when something is new, that can create additional sort of concerns from the media and from society. Thank you. Now, I'm hoping, Nicolas.
Sorry. One additional thing is that it has been many years that we didn't face a disease that needed culling and stamping out measures. So I think since 20-25 years, the society has been evaluating regarding animals and the way to handle animals. So this was the first time for many years that we had to implement those measures.
Yes, thank you. Now I need to ask Gaia and Nicolas if you are both able to stay on for a few minutes so we can answer a few more questions. Is that possible?
Yeah, sure.
Wonderful, thank you. So I'm going to ask just two more themes, but I've also asked Alice and Wiebke to capture all of the questions. Some are in the questions and answers and some are in the chat, and then we'll come to you and get some written responses as well to share with our attendees. But the first questions really are just on vaccination and whether there has been any cases. We talked about vaccinated animals still needing to be culled, but have we had any breakthrough cases in vaccinated animals? So an animal has been vaccinated, but you've then seen infection.
Yes, we faced that kind of situations, especially in the beginning of August, which was more or less like 2 to 3 weeks after the start of the vaccination, and 1.5 months after the first outbreak. So we considered that we have been vaccinating animals that were in the phase of incubation.
Yes.
And so we had a clinical expression of rather both the side effects of the vaccine or
yes.
The clinical signs of the virus itself, the wild virus. And the difference between vaccinated and the vaccine strain and the wild strain has been possible with the DIVA test. And so as long as we had the confirmation of the presence of the wild strain, it was confirmed as an outbreak and culled. But this was an additional difficulty to
communicate
culling acceptable for the farmers and for the civil society.
Yes, thank you, Nicola. And any further comments on that, Gaia?
No, it was pretty much the same in our country.
Yes, thank you. And then we've had a number of questions on the epidemiological investigations, ranging from understanding, Gaia, for example, when you think the first introduction of the disease was in Sardinia. In other words, had there been a period of time where we had not picked up the disease? And then also some questions around understanding the spread. And I think this is especially for Nicolas in terms of those different clusters that you have talked about, were they animal movements, etc. So Gaia, anything that you could say on the introduction of the disease?
Okay, so we did, of course, an urgent epidemiological investigation, looking at the traceability. The tracing back could say months before that there were not weird movements. Everything was under control. And from the lesions, what we could say also with the help of the EU vet mission, with the experts that came here to support us just a few days after the first outbreak, that the lesions were reported that the disease came in our island 2 months before the first case. We checked also, of course, the movements from everywhere, and our hypothesis is probably from vector transmission and vector movements. This is.
Yeah, that's really helpful. Is there a report available from the EU vet mission that we could perhaps share?
I have to ask my boss.
You ask your boss.
You ask yourself. Se può condividere il report. Well, at the moment, I don't think so. I'm sorry.
That is fine. I'm sure it will come into the scope after, etc., and those discussions. Nicolas, I'm particularly asking you about the movement of the cases and the third, fourth, and fifth movement. Is there any insight that you can give us on that epidemiology?
Well, things are still under investigations. But what we do think is that between the clusters or the isolated cases, the propagation of the virus has been made by infected animals. We don't have any clues confirming this, but this is our understanding that on those rather large distance spreading, there has been movement of animals that could explain the spreading. And at the local level, it would be more a vectorial spreading. But we didn't identify clear evidence of movements that could explain this, but this is still under investigation. But we do consider that it's infected animal movements that has been spreading on larger distance.
Yes, and in France, have you also captured the insects and done PCR testing on them, as Gaia reported?
Well, at our practitioner level, we didn't do that.
Okay.
but I think there has been a few things that has been done by some researchers and research institutes, but I don't have the detailed information regarding this.
Thank you, Nicolas. And Gaia, back to you.
I just want to add one simple thing, is that we are still running some tests on traps that we have from the months before the outbreaks on some pools of insects, because in Italy we do surveillance plans for arboviruses such as West Nile and then for blue tongue. So this is ongoing. We are very few human resources and we have a lot of pools to check. And also what we could say from the cluster that we had at the beginning, we had one main cluster for at the most 2 months, and then we had 2 clusters until last week, and probably could be, I think, from illegal movement, what we think. But right now the area is bigger and they are getting closer, the cluster is in one area. So yeah.
That's really helpful. Thank you. And then one final question, because we have already, taken up too much of your time, although we've still got over 150 people online. So it's obviously very interesting. Have you got any insights from the National Reference Laboratory in the genomics around the epidemiology, including, we talked about the closest match to the origin, but also in terms of the ongoing spread? Can I come maybe to Gaia? I think you talked about the potential origin match on the genomics first, and then Nicolas.
Well, what we could say is that we have the Nigeria 2018 strain belonging to the cluster 1.2, and further genomic investigations are ongoing at the moment. Yes. So we have no more infos.
Yeah. And Nicolas, anything else?
I might not be as sharp as Gaia on this topic, but we also identified these strains in France, to my understanding. And to my understanding, it's also the strain that has been circulating in North African countries those past years. So that's the only thing I might add on this topic.
That is wonderful, Nicolas. I could speak for another half hour, but we must not do that. That is not fair on anyone. But thank you so much to Gaia and to Nicolas for being amazing speakers and providing so much insight. Thank you to Alain and Kat for coming on and talking about some of the wider aspects of how we prepare and ensure that we have the tools in the toolbox to deal with exotic notifiable diseases. Thank you to Alice and Vipka, who have done so much brilliant work preparing for this webinar, and also for providing the wonderful background that we've all been using. And of course, thank you to you all. I think the message here is that together we are stronger, and together we can address these really challenging animal health and welfare diseases. And that is where we want to be placed in the FVE, working together, sharing our experiences and building our understanding. So can I just at this point now say a big thank you to everyone who has been here and contributed. To reiterate, this has been recorded. We will be sharing this information with everyone who is registered. and a little bit more on the questions and answers, but we will also be able to share this whole webinar more widely, which I hope will therefore provide a resource for everyone for the future. Thank you, everyone. I think we're going to end the event, and if Gaia and Nicolas could just stay on for a second just to make sure that we've finalized any logistics. Thank you again, and have a good rest of your day.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.